This is Punchestown Racecourse, home of many great races down the ages, and of course the venue for the culmination of the Irish jump season with the now 5-day festival. But in truth, it's a course that I don't know that well, and that's something I'd like to rectify, and therefore I've enlisted the help of one Ruby Walsh. Ruby, thank you very much for showing me around.
Show you around. Not to show you in Punchestown, Lydia.
It's huge, that's the first thing that strikes you. I mean, it's just absolutely massive.
It is. Look, it's a huge site, but it's a huge track as well, and it's probably, I think it's the biggest that I've ever been on, but it's probably the one place that puts the least profitable thing first. And that's actually the track.
Yeah.
The surface is incredible, and the width of it, and how much ground they have, obviously from the ambulance road all the way to the inside of their new extension that they're doing at the moment, which is going to almost double the width of the home straight. But look, they do put the track first here in Punchestown, and it's an incredible surface. It's a wonderful track. It is undulating, but not like we would consider undulating like Cheltenham.
Yeah.
It's more sweeping and rolling. So this is there's two descents, and they're both quite close together. So when you pass by the winner post, you descend to the road and climb to the fence past the stands, and you climb up to the second fence after the stands, and then you descend again. So like the actual rise and descents that matter in Punchestown are at a pretty irrelevant part of the race. It's just past the winner post, which means whatever race you're riding in, you still have 1 mile and 7 furlongs to go, or thereabouts.
You described this to me before, and now I understand it much better actually seeing it in real life, which is only natural. But I think we should just focus on the ground, because just look at that grass covering. It is amazing. And when do you think was the last time that horses were actually galloping on this bit of the track?
Probably haven't been on this since last June, I would imagine, the last national hunt meeting of that season. Maybe the first meeting in September or October may well have used this outside line again, but from there on everything keeps moving in Punchestown, and they keep going inwards. There's fresh ground for almost every meeting. There's 2 chase tracks, and that's all been progress, because it's all changed so much. I'm going to talk you through the changes. When we roll down by the stands, when I started riding in Punchestown, as you crossed the road over hurdles, you turned right and you went down under the hill. If Pete turns around, you'll see the hill. So the hurdle track stayed at the bottom of the hill, and all that ground from the white rail, the birch fence, up to the top of the hill wasn't part of the racecourse. That was a field. So Punchestown has incorporated all of that ground, which gives it such an expanse now.
And if you go back and have a look at Isterbrack, so when he did the treble, now that no other horse could have done that before, because the race was created, wasn't it, at Punchestown, the champion hurdle here. So he went and won the champion hurdle, he went to Aintree, won the Aintree hurdle, he won here at Punchestown, the first horse ever to do the treble, but he would have turned right over there.
He just turned right here. As he crossed the road, he turned right, and to the first stall with the red marker on it, he went just on the outside of that, between the 2 white rails. He stayed on the low side of the top rail, and the hurdle track went all the way down. And as we get down, we'll show you, there's a hedge down there. He was on the right hand side. Now the hurdles are all on the left. And that came about actually the year they raced here almost underwater. So that part of the track down there, being the lowest part, was flooded, and they had to move the hurdles out to here. And when they went up the hill once with the hurdles, they've continued to go up ever since.
They thought, this is much better.
We found a better track, and they kept going, but they've incorporated so much land now into being the actual race course. Obviously the old bank course that was literally inside the fences, most of that has been removed, and we now have a cross-country race. This was a bank track. There was a bank beside every fence. Most of the banks are gone, and you now have the cross. Yeah, literally inside the fences was a bank course, but that's gone, and now you have a cross-country track that meanders all around this fabulous site. But the old bank racing is gone. It's cross-country racing. But look, there's been wonderful races here. My first memory is Barney Burnett in '85 winning the BMW Novice Hurdle over fences. It's the match. That's the first thing I remember here.
So this is Buckhouse versus Dawn Run. It was a race that was specially put on for them at the Punchestown Festival, because there wasn't one suitable for either of them.
No, there was no 2 mile champion chase. It was a handicap, I think, and there was no Gold Cup. So they were the champion chase and the Gold Cup horse. So a match was created in Punchestown. The place was absolutely wedged. It was the old Punchestown racecourse. That actual building that is now the office was the old weigh room. So the whole thing was completely different. But I can remember watching the match.
Where were you standing?
At the fence past the stands with my mother.
Okay, we'll go up to the fence past the stands, shall we, and have a look at that.
Have a look.
So we've moved up to the fence just past the stands that you were just describing, Ruby. And before I let you reminisce, we should just say what time of year we are, because this fence has just been freshly built.
Yeah, so we're literally, a couple of weeks before the Punchestown Festival, and Punchestown kind of rebuilds twice a year. Most tracks do it once. Punchestown will rebuild before the festival, and then obviously again before the season starts in October. So yeah, brand new fence. 2 mile chase in Punchestown, you never bypass the fence, because you only jump them all once.
Right. Okay. So how much is the loop?
It's just under 2 miles. So you will start behind the last fence.
Right.
So it's quite a long run from the start to the first fence, but you don't jump any fence twice in a 2 mile chase here.
I did not know that. So at the moment the 2 fences aren't in place for the straight beyond.
They'll be brought in during probably the next week or 10 days. But like, everything is movable at Punchestown. You can see the hydraulics on the back of the fence here for the pipes. They can jack them up and move them. So if you've got really testing ground and they needed to move the fence during the week, they can take a section on, take a section off, and that's why there's no problem putting them in. Everything is portable. There's no fixed. But most festivals are portable in the UK now as well. But yeah, that's just all ground management.
Yeah, it's good to see it's up close though, exactly how it's done.
That's just to get it up off the ground.
Yeah.
You do it with a tractor. But it is, and that's the steepest part. You rise up by here. The old bank is gone. You can still see what would have been the second drop bank. This used to be an up bank, which meant the drain was on the front side. That was a drop bank when you turned away from the stand, so the drain was on the back side. But look, this is where the 3.5 mile chase starts, just here in the corner. There's only two national trial, but that's one on the inside track anyway. At the festival there's one on the Saturday.
And how about the stiffness of the fences? How would you
they're brilliantly built, because you can see how thin the birch is on top. They haven't got real thick stalks of birch like down here. So it's more expensive, requires more birch, but finer birch is much nicer for the horses, and they're really well built here at Punchestown. They use the fine birch. It costs more money, but it's a better fence.
So what would this be? What kind of strength of fence in inverted commas would it be like compared to Britain, say?
They're great fences. They're pretty much the same as Cheltenham, Sandown, Newbury, most tracks. They're a good size fence. Obviously they're up to your shoulder, and we are on an incline, so that's probably a bit bigger from the takeoff side than it is from the landing side, because you're climbing. But they are a good fence. You don't get a huge amount of fallers here. A lot of horses make mistakes that cost them races, but don't get massive amount of fallers.
It looks like quite an inviting fence.
They're right great. Leopardstown are quite similar. Brilliant fences.
So take you back to 1986, Buckhouse versus Dawn Run. Where were you standing?
Just there, the wing of the fence, somewhere there, the wing of the fence. That was the old car park. The hurdy-gurdies we used to call them, were just below it. But there was as many people then, Lydia, outside the track as there was inside. There would have been as many down at Ruby's Double, loads of people in the middle. Ireland in the 80s wasn't a flush economy. Lots of people wanted to go, but not everybody could afford to go in.
The atmosphere is palpable. I've watched it on YouTube, and it's just you can feel it, and the roar that comes up as they come round the bend. There's just one point where Buckhouse looks like he might master her, but really she's all over him, isn't she?
She is all over him, and there's that iconic picture of the two of them standing here before the race, Tony Mullins and Tommy Carmody, and I can remember it, and the buzz, the excitement. I was only 7, but I do remember it.
And were you rooting for Dawn Run or for Buckhouse?
I can't remember. That part I don't remember.
It's got to be Dawn Run, surely.
I don't. I'd say I was a Tommy Carmody fan.
Okay.
I would have been a Tommy Carmody fan, no doubt about that. I wouldn't have known the Mullins as such at the time, and I would have been a Tommy Carmody fan.
Buckhouse was a fantastic horse, and it was incredible to watch the race, because Dawn Run's under pressure from quite a way out, but then she does come back on the bridle and powers away. She's won the Gold Cup after making goodness knows how many errors. She's going out to her left, isn't she, at most of the fences around here.
And Tony definitely not even trying to stop her, just letting her off.
Yeah.
Away with you, down on if you want to go. But you often say it, but you watch even say this year's Gold Cup at Cheltenham, and it's run a fraction below the champion chase. The Gold Cup horses can run at that speed and do it for 3 miles. And look, we remember Sizing John when he beat Jack Adam and Coney Gree here. Like, that was as strong a chase as I ever rode in Ireland, pace-wise. That was relentless.
What were you on?
Jack Adam. Sizing John beat him a short head. Puppy came down my outside. Nico rode Coney Gree. We went hard in that race. That was relentless.
And what do you remember thinking on the way around?
I think I was going to win. Thought I had Puppy beat. I missed the last. Got too high at the last and pecked out of the back of it. But that was a relentless race.
That's the story of Jacques Adam, really, wasn't it?
Story of his life.
Where are we going to go next then?
We're going to go round the corner and down the real descent in Punchestown. That's only a slope.
Mini slope. So this is the proper descent?
Yeah, the proper descent. So you're still a long way from home, and it leads you down to the bottom, or the ditch at the bottom of the hill, and then the climb into the back straight. But it's a good point to see where all the tracks were and used to split. So if we look to the inside ambulance road, which is the very inside of the track, so from the ambulance road to the hedge was the old original hurdle track. That is where Isterbrack, etc. would have raced all the horses pre the mid 2000s. Outside the hedge, where the cross country course is now, was just a field, and that was field all the way to that white railing inside the two fences. That used to be racecourse.
Right.
Now it's all racecourse. So what's over there is your winter hurdle track. It comes out to the outside of the cross country, which is your winter chase track, and then when you come right outside, you've got your spring hurdle and chase track. And if you come right to the left, you can see where the cross country course heads for Sheila's Cottage, where it turns, comes back through the Herd's Garden to the old double and back onto the racecourse proper.
So if you say the cross country course, I'm immediately thinking about Risk of Thunder, and there's 7 successes.
7, yeah, and it's changed dramatically. He ever win an old-fashioned bank race here, but even the cross country course has changed dramatically over time. He obviously come back up here now. They used to actually go back into the Herd's Garden from this direction. Risk of Thunder would have won a couple, jumping all of those fences from both sides. Now they've added more in, and you only jump and go into one direction. But like, it's just every year Punchestown, I suppose every year, but over time it's just gotten wider, better, and even as you said, the grass, the sod, it's just incredible. Even ambulance roads, this ambulance road on the outside wasn't always there. That ambulance road actually used to cross behind this fence, and the old ambulance road was between the two tracks, and it went down the middle all the way back to the home turn.
Okay. And so presumably they use both of these when we're on the sort of winter ground,
They use
the support.
It's on the inside ambulance road, and then in the springtime it's out here on this road. So it's huge, it's vast.
It's a lot of ground to cover if you do have an accident in the wrong spot, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and a lot of grass to mow in the summer.
Yeah, that must be a massive task, actually.
And I would be here a bit because the Pony Club use a lot of this land on the outside, but you'd see them here in the summer, and there's always a tractor on the go here, either watering or mowing.
And were you a fan of the cross country?
I loved it as a kid. When I show you when we'll blow at the old double, yeah, I did. I was a fan of the old bank races. Never had much luck in them. Don't think I ever won one. No, I didn't. Got knocked out in one. Got a couple of falls. No, I was no good.
It just doesn't sound like a good record. Whereas Risk of Thunder was incredible. So he might have even have won it 8 times were it not for the festival was abandoned, wasn't it? When it was going to be the penultimate.
That was because of a drainage issue, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was moved to Ferry House in Leopardstown. I think Moscow Flyer actually beat Isterbrack in a hurdle race there. I think Isterbrack fell at the last, if my memory serves me correctly. But yeah, Risk of Thunder was an incredible horse. But before, again, they would have worked for PP Hogan, and PP was dominant here in the bank races, and then Enda took over. Risk of Thunder, so many more horses like them.
And Risk of Thunder ended up with the last time he won. He was pretty old, wasn't he? And he'd been sent on quite a long way out by JT McNamara, and there was an inexorable mare chasing him down, and he just managed to last home.
He did, but he was an incredible jumper of banks, and he could have done with more banks. He was so fast, like he literally bounced on top of a bank. He never jumped on and jumped off. He just touched the top. He was incredible to watch.
And JT McNamara had amazing record here at Punchestown, didn't he? The Punchestown Festival, he had so much success here.
It is, but the festival is actually a great meeting for amateurs. There's a lot of amateur races, a lot of bumpers. There's 2 hunter chases, the Champion Hunter Chase and the Farmers Race, and you have the 3 bank races. So there's lots of opportunities for amateurs in Punchestown.
And was it a festival you enjoyed?
Loved it. Yeah, it's my home festival. Like, I was born in Kill, which is 4 miles that way. I live 7 or 8 miles that way, so this was home. We got holidays off school. School's closed half day on a Tuesday, and they were closed Wednesday and Thursday when it was a 3-day festival. So I was really thankful to Punchestown. Got me 2.5 days off school a week, a year.
And when I could understand why you were grateful. I was the same for Cheltenham as well. Was there a horse or a person that you particularly associated with Punchestown when you were growing up? Someone who you thought rode it well, perhaps?
I don't think so. I was probably always shouting for the same people. I would have come here originally when Dad was riding and Brendan Sheridan, so I would have hoped that they'd be winning. And then as you grew older, obviously it was Charlie who always seemed to do everything right. And then I started riding myself, and I was always lucky. I rode my first winner here over fences on Dixon Varner, and I had a lot of success here. Probably thanks to Willie Mullins, but plenty of success here.
First winner and last winner.
Yeah, first and last over fences here. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about Kenboy a little bit further around. You're going to show me where the cross-country course comes back onto the course proper?
I am, yeah.
So sweeping down that hill over there, what kind of horse would be moving on at that point? Carville's Hill surely springs to mind.
Yeah, of course it would. So you can, if you were riding something like Carville's Hill and you roll down there like Carville's Hill did, not going to say flew the ditch in the next one because he probably didn't, but just relentless. So you're taking the momentum off the hill, and you'll often see front runners extend away down here. And I know we're climbing, and then it's going to drop, and then it's going to climb, but it's all so rolling that the climbs and the undulations, they melt into one. And if you get a front runner, especially over fences here, that's jumping anyway well, it's so hard to bring them back to you. There's nothing to slow them down in front of you.
So particularly over fences, it's a front runner's track.
Yeah, it is, especially a good jumper. Now you can see the undulations and the rivets. Like, we'll climb up onto this rise here, but you automatically, when you've climbed, you're getting a descent. So the horse is getting his energy back, and he rolls with you again. This fence is dead level, but the one after it, as you're looking at it from where we are, like it's on the undulation.
I can already see, look, it's skew-if. I mean,
yeah, from inside to outside. But they're just the undulations of Punchestown. And like as you say, Carville's Hill would have just bombed away here, 12 stone or whatever you had in the novice handicap.
Yeah.
But like if he gets away from you here, there is nowhere for you that you're going to think, well, he's going to get tired at a certain point.
He's not.
It just doesn't happen.
So that would have been the Tassil Gold Cup when it was the novice handicap chase.
Novice handicap.
When by a distance, didn't he?
3 miles and 1 furlongs. It's now the Elliot copiers, 2 miles and 5, and the grade 1 novice is 3 miles. But yeah, it's just, that was one change, I suppose. Yeah, still a competitive handicap chase. Kenboy won it before he came back here and won the grade 1. It's a really good race. Obviously this is the old double here behind us, so the cross country course comes back in here. First time I remember being here, my father got a fall and broke his wrist off one of P.P. Hogan's, whatever year that was. And the first year I jumped it, I did so on a pony on the Wednesday morning before the Latouche, giving Marcus Armitage a lead on one of Kim Bailey's that was going running in the Latouche.
Oh really?
Yeah, they wanted a school over it, so we had a really good 14-2 pony that could fly banks.
That was the time when the British campaign for Punchestown was actually quite strong, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. Things have sort of changed around the other way now.
The English campaign at Cheltenham was kind of strong.
Yeah. Throw Everton in. So I mean, Carville's Hill was a magnificent sight, but as you say, as you were hinting, he could wallop one, couldn't he? He's good at an unforced error.
Burst him. He wouldn't wallop one. Wallop one was a good round the jump from Carville's Hill, if my memory serves me right as a kid. But like, I can remember watching Maid of Money, wondering when she beat Carville's Hill at different times. But she was a great jumper. He wasn't so good, but he just had some engine though to keep upping the ante and keep going. And look, obviously he did it again in a Welsh national after, but this place was always going to suit him.
Magnificent performance here. So Ruby, we're now at the inside bottom of that sloping fence that we were showing a while ago. It's very obvious. It's quite marked here. This might be a stupid question. Can you feel that on a horse? That camber?
Yeah, obviously the camber. So what you want is a horse who is leading on his off four or her off four, so that leg is getting to the ground first. So then the leg higher up the camber is coming slightly behind it. You might find it if you're the other way around, with your leading leg being your near four left, hitting the ground before you're off would obviously slightly unbalance you. But it's not actually for that long. It's only sort of 100 yards to the fence and a little bit more than 100 yards or a bit more away from the fence. But what you don't, we can just about see, is the very outside of the last ditch. It's less than a furlong away, but obviously you rise up and drop down to the ditch. So yeah, look, it's, as I said to you, it's the sweep and rolls of Punchestown. They're continuous.
Even on horseback?
You can, of course, when you're on horseback, you can see the ditch, but you won't see the takeoff, you won't see the bottom of it, but you'll definitely see the fence and know it's coming. We
can also see the movement, the width of the track here, because that line there obviously is where a fence was in the winter part.
Yeah.
John Durkin?
Yeah, John Durkin, that would have been the last ditch, obviously, and it's back a good bit from the other ditch because the bend will come quicker. So the fence is further back, so it still gives you obviously a little bit longer of a run to the bend to the fourth last, but with the bend being closer to you, that fence comes back. This fence is probably back just on the other side of the undulation, and that fence would have been back on the top of the hill. So the fences are moved back as they go in. Everything goes back a little bit to get you further from the bends.
So riding wise, what are you thinking at this point?
Well, riding wise, where you can get caught out in Punchestown is because of its vastness. You tend to think Punchestown, it's not like Cheltenham old and new, but Punchestown is old and new, and it's summer and winter. So what happens is you come back to Punchestown and you ride it like the last time you were here in February, when it's at its very innermost, and all of a sudden you come back in April and it's on its very outermost. It's a different track, and it tends to catch you more when you get closer to the home turn. It's the home turn that really catches you, because it gets so far out compared to where it has been in February, that when you jump the second last over hurdles particularly, you need to wait for a good bit longer before you commit. With the very last meetings here in February, you can go from the second last. By April you can't.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So generally, if you're from the riding perspective, you have to kind of hold an annual memory in your
it's a different track. It's so many different tracks here. I mean, there is 10 racecourses here.
It's extraordinary. I hadn't, you've explained it to me before, but until I'm actually standing here, I hadn't gathered the width and the variety and quite how much movement there was. I think you have to see it really to understand it.
It does, but what kind of, and then ultimately annoys me a little bit, is people say, oh, it's the innermost track in Punchestown is tight. The innermost track in Punchestown is bigger than most other racecourses.
I mean, look at it. It's obviously
when you get in there to go around the inside, it's a bloody fine racecourse when it's in there, let alone when it's out here.
If that's too tight, you really do have a galloper.
You have an issue.
So we've come to 4 out, where they're just dressing and trimming the fence ahead of the festival. Intricate work.
Yeah, a lot of work in it, and obviously, as Sean, the head groundsman who's just gone off, was telling us, all of these fences are rebuilt after the last meeting in February, and then they're redressed, and obviously that green palm won't stay green until the end of April, so they'll have to be sprayed. But look, that's the 4th last fence. Great fence. The 3rd last will be up on the plateau, but you can see the line of what was the 4th last in winter. Yeah. The brown line on the ground. So from there to here is your festival hurdle tracks. But where you get caught out as a jockey, because you've been racing inside that fence all winter, you'll notice you don't climb this hill.
Yes.
You can see how it slopes in.
Yes.
So you have been riding here on the level track, having not climbed the hill into the home straight over hurdles. Whereas when you come back here on the Tuesday, the Punchestown Festival, when you're right out here on the widest track, you've got to climb all the way up before you turn into the home straight, and you get sucked into committing too soon. The second last hurdle will be halfway up the hill, and you'll jump the second last and think, when I was here last time I was here, you had to commit. You jump it in April and think you have to commit, and all of a sudden you're still climbing and you're a good bit further from the winning post. So yeah, you do have to refresh your memory when you keep coming here. Different tracks, different time of year, different undulations, and as the week progresses, you come further down that camber over hurdles, and it makes it less and less stiffer. Less and less stiff.
This is the spot I think that most illustrates that of all that you've been talking about, the sort of the different line around and the impact that it can have on the actual the way a race might develop.
It will, and even then, say, so if you look back, say, Sprinter Sacre winning on the Tuesday, the Champion Chase on a Tuesday, and he, like Istabrack, did the treble as well. Champion Chase, Melling came back here. So Punchestown, you only use half that fence early in the week. And on the Tuesday in particular, there's 2 chases, and they're usually small fields. You'd have the 3 mile Grade 1 novice chase and the 2 mile champion chase. You'd only have a maximum of 10 runners. So they would only give you an allocation for 10 horses as such. So that track will be further out. And then you've got to climb further up on the outside. So even though it's a 2 mile chase, the champion chase on the Tuesday suits a stair more so than when you get to the very inside of the fence by the Saturday.
We should recognise what an incredible achievement it is to win at Cheltenham, Aintree and Punchestown. Now, not many horses try it. Sometimes the calendar doesn't allow you to do it, but Istabrack in '99, Sprinter Sacre in 2013, it's an incredible achievement.
It is an incredible achievement, and I suppose, look, for Irish racing fans, the one that everyone would love this year will be Constitution Hill. But the calendar's not going to allow that this year. He'll go to Aintree and he's 1,000 to 1 to come here on the Friday. But like, that's what you would love to see. And to me, what I suppose made Sprinter and Isterbrack so good, that they could do all three.
Yes.
And that both travelled to do so. It's the one thing I would probably, in a different sport, but it's the one thing I would have for Sea the Stars over Frankel, is he travelled so much, whereas Frankel just got in a horse box. He never actually crossed the sea. If you know what I mean.
I do.
I think there is a bit to it for a horse. It is another thing to do. So for me, Constitution Hill, he has to come this side of the pond at some stage.
And I do think it's important. Also, I think it's important for fans as well to see the horses perform on both sides of the Irish Sea. And I think it means that you get a bit more cachet with not just your domestic fans, but with the
it resonates.
overseas fans
and,
as
you know,
well.
To me, it's a very important part of it. You see it with trainers, riders. Horses have to do the same. And look, I'd love to see that. But look, this place is, as racecourses go, fantastic.
It is amazing, and I think going back to Isterbrack, I think it was actually his best performance that season as well at Punchestown, so that was particularly good to do that in front of a home crowd.
Charlie Edgerton's horse,
Decoupage,
and did it quite snugly. Tony McCoy rode Limestone Lad, made the running, and it was a really great race. Now, and that was way off in there.
Yeah.
He was very much on the tightest part, but it is still a great racecourse.
Whereas Sprinter Sacco was here, and he
was wide.
Laughed at Size of Europe, who was miles ahead of the rest of the field.
Yeah, I know, but he was an incredible horse, Sprinter Sacco. His power, his scope, these fences would have suited him, and obviously Barry would have known this place like the back of his hand. But look, I was mastermind that came here and won Twist Magic. Neptune Cologne won a couple of Heineken's, Guinness, whatever they are, Gold Cups. But great track.
That dressing that you were talking about, I know it sounds stupid, but I hadn't realised why it's sprayed painted green, and now it's obvious now, because obviously it would look brown, it would look less inviting, but it's very stupid, I realise. But sometimes that's plastic these days, isn't it?
It's plastic in Cheltenham. Obviously it's an expensive purchase, but yeah, I mean, getting green palm, it's probably not as frequent as it was, so yeah, sure, it's all cosmetic. I mean, the horse doesn't know probably if it's green plastic that looks like palm or green palm. They're hardly eating it.
So there's Sean Ryan, and he's marking out where the third last fence is going to be.
Yeah, it is, and it's an important fence. Obviously, Sean is well below us, so if you can jump it, and jump it well, it enables you to coast up onto the top of this hill, and then you have the descent on the far side down into the home straight. Now, the old second last, Lydia, when you jumped that third last fence, you climbed up here, and there was two dolls on the descent to bring you onto the bend, and the second last fence was on the corner facing that way.
So you'd be jumping it, almost going into those trees?
Into those trees,
right.
So like when Dawn Run won, and actually when I won on Comanche Court here, Miko's Dream fell, brought down Doran's Pride. Stormy Fairweather and Mac George, I think it was, went through on the inside, but because they got through on the inside, they almost missed the dolls down here. So Mick Fitz and Owen Williamson nearly had to do a 90-degree turn to get back out onto the chase track to jump the second last. But look, it was tradition stated that the second last fence in Punchestown had to be on an angle on the home turn, but they've moved it into the home straight, and nobody remembers it was on the bend. And
how does it make races different?
It's better. Two fences in the straight in a line. It's not as trappy as the old second last was. It's a fairer track. Now you do descend down to the second last, but it's a much fairer track. And then when you go back over hurdles, because you've climbed all the way up here, I remember it because of Classical Dream. One of the last winners I rode over hurdles here. So I took on whichever one of Gordon's was in front, and the second last hurdle will be just beside the third last fence. And I remember jumping on to take on the horse in front, jumped it, and all of a sudden we're still climbing, and I'm thinking we should be turning. Why aren't we turning? We weren't turning because we were going on the Tuesday hurdle track, and it was way down into the straight. But you can imagine the difference from that white rail to all the way out here, how much it actually puts on the bend, distance wise. It makes it a much more galloping track, and this is a better view of the new building they're doing. So we're top of the home straight, from the inside of the brown clay, they're almost doubling the width of the home straight to give it more fresh ground in the winter.
So when will that be finished?
Sure, it's as good as finished. There is grass seed sown on it, but when will it be used? could be 3 years.
It's got to bed in, hasn't
Bed
it?
in,
Yeah.
sod to appear. And look, when you're racing on something like this, they're going to want to wait till there's a consistency on that.
Sean was saying the grass is too long at the moment.
I know,
isn't
yeah. He's not happy. It's an inch too long. Yeah, ever the perfectionist.
So I'll be out with his mower tomorrow. So now we're in the straight. So two out and the last aren't quite here yet.
But you can see you run down, and just to get level, is where the second last fence will be. A
Right.
little bit of darker grass down there. Moscow Flyer missed that, did he?
Yes.
When you got
2005.
2005, got chinned a short head.
And seated there, I think, 2003.
Yeah, there's ever so slightly of a turn from there. You can't really see it. You'd need to go way up there for me to describe it to you. But it does turn so slightly at the back of the second last fence, and then you gallop on to get straight to the last fence, straight to the winning post.
Are you going to do an impression of Jack Adam here?
Well, look, I'm just going to walk through the last fence, just like Jack and Am did, only it's not actually structurally here, so I'm getting away with it. But Jack and Am, yeah, he missed it. And Size and John got down his outside. Coney Gree actually had missed the second last, and that had left me in front. But that was a really strong race. Obviously not overly impressed that I lost, but it was an end-to-end race. It was more of an English race.
It was tremendously competitive as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. Dawn Run had beaten Buckhouse by the time she got here. Yeah, it's great fence, but it's also 2 mile start.
Yeah, I was going to say, and we're so close to the stands,
Yeah.
and so it must be a real atmosphere during the festival when you're here.
And as close as we are now, the ambulance road is relatively new. So that running rail actually used to be a good bit closer, because that is where that ambulance road is only a new thing here. The ambulance used to have to go at the back of the grandstand. Now they can come on the front side. So they used to be much closer to you. So when you get the 2 mile chases start literally 50 yards on, but you obviously a circle here. And a lot of people, that's all corporate hospitality, pour out, 2 mile handicap chase, 2 mile grade 1 novice, 2 mile champion chase. Yeah, there is a really good atmosphere here before them.
The corporate hospitality actually pour out.
They actually pour out.
Do they really?
Yeah. Can you imagine that?
I'm trying
Harry and
to.
the prawn sandwiches.
But it must be a great atmosphere down here. I can just imagine that. And also the footage of the match between Buckhouse and Dawn Run, you can see all the people lining the edges here.
And can't imagine there was much corporate hospitality back then, but yeah, you can, lining it all the way in. Obviously the bank course, I don't know what they're going to do this year with the new straight. I can't imagine they're going to cross that, but it used to come out there halfway between the last two jumps, but I'd imagine they'll have to go outside it this year somehow, do something different with it. But yeah, look, and it's a relatively short run in, and the last 50 yards is down
Slightly downhill, yeah.
Yeah, usually if you can get to there in front, you'll last the rest of the way home.
Let's go from the last of the hurdles to the line, shall we? And can we talk Archibald?
Yeah. No meeting Paul Carberry.
Yeah.
Not getting on so well then, were they?
Right, okay, so this is post champion hurdle, when there's all that yak about Paul Carberry holding on to Archibald against Hardy Eustace, and you know the great debate about did he hold on to him for too long, did he overdo the waiting tactics, you know, or should he actually have waited longer and pounced? It was poured over, wasn't it?
It was, but like there's a couple of stories with Archibald. You go back to his county hurdle run, and it was, you know, Paul blamed Noel for making him be too prominent on him. Champion hurdle, he didn't win, and then it came to Punchestown, and I'm not overly sure Paul listened to Noel either. It was a different track, and it was a softer track. Now you don't go all the way in, and you can see the difference in the grass. See the way it's gone, not as green in there, a bit more clumpy and ridgy. That's because that's what's been used the last 3 to 4 meetings in Punchestown, and that's uncharacteristic to the rest of the track. Because the straight is narrower than everywhere else, that strip gets used considerably more, hence why they've put in all the new track, is to keep it more level, keep it, the least you can use it, the longer turf stays. So that's what they're doubling the weight for. So the inside hurdle track at the festival is probably going to be here somewhere. They won't be in there. That'll be the canter down. But Archibald, yeah, he landed in front. But again, over hurdles here, it's such a short run in.
Yeah, so the theory was that Paul Carberry was asked to get to the front sooner and led at the final hurdle, and it was a reaction to what happened at Cheltenham.
Yeah, people were always going to have that reaction, isn't it? People to this day think he should have won that champion hurdle. But
surely people these days think he's just a weak finisher.
they probably still don't. People that back them definitely won't think that. But he was a weak finisher, and Punchestown suited him. Kempton suited him. Punchestown suited him. Cheltenham just didn't suit Archibald. But that's not a crime against Archibald.
We see horses like that all the time, don't we? But here, so he hit the front, and this time Brave Inca ran him down.
Yeah, and you know it's unusual because like even you can see it from here. We're 56, no, probably about 100 yards short of the winning post, and you can see where it runs away from you. It starts to run down, like, and it's harder for a horse to make up ground as you're running down. And it does run down the last 100 here in Punchestown, and Brave Inca did run him down.
Yeah, and
so Brave Inca just a better horse.
Probably better suited by the way the race developed on the day.
Possibly, yeah, possibly. But look, can't think of too many got ran down close home here, but that was definitely one, and it was another great race, and hopefully we'll have plenty of great races like it at the end of the month.
We're coming to the winning post, and this proved controversial in 2005 when Moscow Flyer was rallying, having made his mistake 2 out. Rathgar Bow was in front, he was rallying at the line, and then I think Jessica Harrington says there was about an 11-minute wait for the photograph to come out, and even then it was indistinct. Rathgar Bow was declared the winner, and nobody on the Moscow Flyer side of things thinks it should have been anything other than a dead heat. One of the reasons that the photograph was not helpful is the width of this track, isn't it?
It is, but have you ever seen the photograph?
No, I haven't.
I did. So did lots of people. So yes, you can argue that you cannot see if Moscow Flyer has been beaten because there is no mirror, but you can also argue that unless Moscow Flyer had a distorted shaped nose, he has to be beaten. So you can see both sides of the argument if you so wish. But yeah, look, I'm coming to the line, so obviously you can see the gap on the right through to the stand in there, where the mirror now is, which wasn't from the judge's box up there at the time. But it is quite a considerable distance, but it's going to get further away.
It is. It's only going further away.
But I imagine technology's improved, and there's no reason there can't be a mirror put halfway as well.
It's a superb track. Really,
Fabulous
really
track.
good. What's your best memory here?
What's my best memory here? I don't have too many bad memories here, to tell you the truth. I don't. I had great memories here. I was lucky in so many Gold Cups, from Imperial Call in '99, Comanche Court, Neptune, Kenboy, Hurricane Fly, Cui Viga, Novices. Jesus, I had so much success here. I rode more winners here than I rode anywhere else. I love this place.
And the last winner, I mean, you know, was
Yeah.
it particularly special because it was here?
Yeah, it was. That definitely made it. Wish it had a better wave though. I never put any thought into that.
What was wrong with the wave? How would you, here's your second chance. How would you wave?
I'd have just done that.